Do you approve?
16 children shouting through the phone.
Wow, it's impossible.
Got 2 today.
Good evening.
What's the red one?
Oh,
The red one is fruit.
He raided Yechiel's cupboards.
that? Yeah.
He's been raiding your cupboard. He's got 2 glasses.
I've got nothing left.
And he's self-employed. And he's self-employed.
Oh, what?
And you're self-employed.
Yeah, it doesn't help today anymore, does it? Good evening.
So I said to someone today, I said to him, we're living in a crazy world. You know, we lived in a crazy world. It's going back to normal.
Very good line.
Sure, did you fast today?
Absolutely.
Sure, I fasted all day to make up for
I
you guys.
fasted. Half day.
No, I fasted half day. They didn't say about the whole day. I don't know where it came from.
They said it wasn't healthy to fast all day because of you need to drink to get the virus out.
As someone said last night, you have to have hot drinks.
Good
evening. Good
Ben,
what was it? Ben, what was it? Lemon tea, was it?
Toddy.
Good Chodesh.
It should be now in
Yes.
You can text you this turn just to, okay, it's not that important if you can.
Yeah. I told him already. I told him 10 minutes ago. As soon as he goes on, he should confirm going forward. So he's going to let me know.
Right, time to mute everyone.
A very good Chodesh Nissan. Chazal say, B'Nissan Nigalu, B'Nissan Asidim Ligoyer. That Nissan is a time which is Mesugel for Yeshuas. I heard, and probably you all heard, that Charles has got it. Maybe think of one small point. It's
Kalaloshan's fine, by the way.
What?
Kalaloshan is good.
Oh, thanks. Very briefly, there's a story which is very well documented, is that the Brisker Rov, during the beginning of the Second World War, he was in Warsaw. And it was being bombed all the time. And they told him, you have to go into the shelter. So he went into the shelter, and then the bombing got worse and worse. And he left the shelter, and he went back home. I said to him, what are you doing? So he said that the reason I went to the shelter was because of Ishtadlus. So when the bombing was reasonable, I thought the shelter is a safer place. Once the bombing became so bad, I realized that everywhere is dangerous. So now there's no mitzvah of Ishtadlus anymore, so I can trust in Hashem as much as I can at home as I can in the shelter. It's a famous story. It shows us the koyach of the Brisker Rov, that when we want a shelter, we do it because we feel safer. He did it because of the cheshbon of Ishtadlus. Once the cheshbon of Ishtadlus fell by the wayside, so there was no point anymore. When I hear that people like Charles has got it, I think to myself, look, I'm sure he's got best people watching over him and the best, care. And after the beginning gets it. Gives me a certain sense of comfort that we don't need to worry so much about Ishtadlus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will sort us out, so to speak, because you shouldn't think that, if you do more Ishtadlus, you can save yourself, less Ishtadlus. We're all into the same boat. There's no real Ishtadlus. There's Ishtadlus, you can try your best, obviously. Keep social distancing and all the washing of the hands. But the bottom line is, nobody can say about themselves that they're safe. And when a person realizes there's nothing he can do to make himself 100% safe, then he turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu much, much more. By the Gemara previously, that Chazal said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was always found by the bed of a person who was not well. Chazal said that the first when they say the reason is because the not well person is always thinking only Hashem can save me. So this is the Hargosha that we're getting today. So let's start on Chodesh Nissan by Mem Adlikin. Mem Adlikin is the perek which we rattle off every Friday night, and not easy to explain and translate most of the words. But it's very, very interesting to pick. This halacha is referring to the mitzvah of lighting candles every Friday night. It's fascinating. We'll have to think about why exactly it is. Of all the mitzvahs, the most kept mitzvah is the mitzvah of lighting candles Friday night. means even by the families which keep almost nothing or know nothing, but they know Friday night we light candles. The reason, hello? What's happening? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, one sec.
The screen has changed a little bit by me. Has it changed by you?
Yeah, sorry. One sec, I'll close it and reopen it. Sorry.
Anyway, it's interesting that that of all mitzvahs, it's the most common. Now, the reason we light candles Friday night is because there's different Rishonim who say Lashon of covered Shabbos, it gives cover to Shabbos, makes Shabbos mechubad, you light candles is important. Oineg Shabbos, you taste the food better when the light is on. There's a nice riddle, maybe you can think about it because we're going to come. The halacha is that what comes first, Shabbos candles or Hanukkah candles? What's more important?
Shabbos.
You're right, but not for the wrong reason. The Rambam says Shabbos, but why Shabbos? Because Shabbos brings shalom bayis. When there's a lot of lights, people don't stumble in the dark, and therefore they don't get irritable with each other. Now the halacha is if you can't afford Shabbos candles, are you mechuyev? No, you're not mechuyev. Hanukkah candles, if a person has no money at all and he owns only one shirt, he has to sell the shirt off his back to pay for Hanukkah candles. The reason is because Persume Nissa, Bimafalsim, the Ness is greater. So let's say a person's got no money, what should he do? And he has to light Shabbos candles and Hanukkah candles. If he sells his shirts by Hanukkah candles, with the money of the Hanukkah candles, then instead of buying Hanukkah candles, what does he have to do? Buy Shabbos candles, because we said Shalom Bayis is more important. But for Shabbos candles, you don't need to sell your shirt because it's not Persume Nissa. So therefore, don't sell it. But then the problem is, but for Hanukkah candles, you're mechuyev to. It's one of these, like we had this a little bit in Orchos Brachos, when you've got three different things, which bracha to make first. We hear it's an interesting riddle. What would you do in such a case? It's more down halacha actually. Anyway, Mishnah says like this: what can you light with? What can't you light with? The Mishnah brings a list of wicks which are no good and oils which are no good. The problem with all these wicks and oils is they do not burn very well. Most of the Rishonim say the problem with them not burning well is what? So what, they don't burn well, so who cares? What's the problem if they don't burn well?
They'll go out and you'll start playing with them.
Right, well you said, well you'll go out, that some of the Rishonim say like you, they might go out and then you won't have your Shabbos candle on.
Or you'll start messing with them, you'll start
that's what most Rishonim say, that you'll mess with it, you'll tilt the candle. And if you tilt the candle, then you'll come to do a Melechas Shabbos. Some say you'll end up with no candle at all. And anybody think, I was maybe throwing a lot of questions already, but what's the nafkamina if the reason is that you might come to tilt it or that you might end up without a candle if you use these rubbish wicks? What's the nafkamina? Let's ask as follows.
Whether you can use an expensive one.
What?
If you've got other lighting in the room.
Expensive one.
I didn't catch that. But let's say, I can ask you the question is, what happens if you've got no candles except for a candle which is very poor quality? If the problem is that you might end up with no candles, you can say to yourself, better something than nothing. The worst comes to us, so go out. I don't like this, I'm not going to have anything anyway. If you say the problem is that you might come to tilt it and do a melacha d'oraisa, so then you're better off not lighting anything, because if you light this bad light candle, you'll end up tilting it. So therefore, it is worse, better off sitting in the dark than to light a candle you may come to tilt. So according to most Rishonim, the problem is you might come to tilt it, so therefore you better don't light anything. If you see the problem is it might go out, so then okay, light it, who cares? Okay, let's go through it. Since you say it every Friday night anyway, and you all know the translation, I won't bother. Actually, I say it every Friday night, and I still don't know the translation. The point is, the Gemara actually describes everyone in detail. So when we go through the Gemara, otherwise it's just repeating itself. The Gemara explains each one of these. All of these are wicks which don't burn very well. And now the Mishnah tells us a list of oils that don't go very well. Zephyrus, that's pitch. Shava is wax. Shemen kick, a kind of oil the Gemara talks about. Shemen sreifa. Shemen sreifa is oil which needs to be burnt. We'll talk about it greater length in the next Mishnah, we'll discuss it greater. That's oil which is tummy, truma, which needs to be burnt. And not with the tail, meaning the fat which is found in the tail of an animal. Chelev is what's called in English tallow. It's a piece of the animal where you're not allowed to eat because you're not allowed to eat chelev. It's fat inside the animal. If it's being cooked, you're allowed to. Why are you allowed to? Once it's being cooked, it's looser. And once it's looser, it burns better. So now the Gemara discusses at great length what is each one of these wicks which we race through. Lechesh. What is that? Shuchat alsa. It's the bark or the branch of a alza, a kind of tree, a cedar tree. The alza. It's a piece of wood. You can't make a wick out of a piece of wood. As the Gemara says, a woolly substance that's inside it. Means what happens is between the bark and the branch, there's a woolly substance, and you're not allowed to use that as a candle. If you look over here, it's not easy to see. If you look very carefully in this picture, it shows you the woolly substance between the bark of the tree. You saw it? Between the bark of the tree and the trunk of the tree, there's a woolly substance.
You can't use it as a wick, or you can't use it to burn.
The Urshal Pishtom is flax. When you comb it, there are always little tiny broken fibers of flax, which are, what's the word for it? Which are called, like, the English word for it is tow, but I don't know if anyone even knows the word tow. It's broken pieces of flax. It says the chaysa will become the oivus. It's a raya that chaysa in our mission is not the oivus. And Rabbi kitna means flax, the dye that's been beaten, but the nofits are not combed. The way you get flax to make it into clothes, you beat it, then you comb it, and then you spin it. Now, when you comb it, there are long strings, and those are the ones that you use to spin. The off there comes out tiny little pieces that they are like the broken pieces. They don't become part of the proper the wick of flax, and those are weak. And when the pasuk says "Vayachisim in the ovus," is referring to the normal flax, becomes like the cheap broken pieces of flax. And they told me kulcha shmei. It's called kulcha. Some should say, okay, well, let's go. It's gushkura. What is gushkura? Gushkura is the bad part, the inferior part of silk. Now, some say that kulcha is the same thing. Others say, no, it's not the same thing. That kulcha is something that grows on rocks when left for a long time. Either way, gushkura is the bad part of the silk. Rashi explains that the cocoon of the worm is you can use it for making clothes, but it's not as good as the normal silk. If you look over here, there's a silkworm with a cocoon, and you use the cocoon to make what's the word for it? To make it wear silk, and that means it's the inferior part of silk. So the Gemara says, Robin Abaya, they were sitting in front of Nechemia. Ravna is another word for Rav, Ravna. Ravna Nechemia, the brother of the Reish Gelusa. Chazi saw him davalovish metachsa. He was wearing silk. That's the klach in our Mishnah. The way the Maharam, the Rif Marshal, explains as follows. Before we said that choloch is a weak part of the silk, like the inferior part of the silk. Here, Robin didn't agree. Robin felt that all silk, even the good quality silk, is called choloch. So when he saw this important man wearing this silk, he said, that's the Mishnah talking about choloch. On Malays, he said to him, no, you're wrong. Anon, shiur parano kuinonle. We call this, shiur means silk, parano is a kind of silk kuinonle. What this person's wearing is the good quality silk. And our Mishnah is talking about koloch, which is the inferior silk. So therefore, you're wrong to say that what that person's wearing is the same as koloch in our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, Meisveit, according to the Maram, this is a kasha only on Robin. The Mishnah, we're discussing the halachas of tzitzis. There are shittas that you only have to put on tzitzis on wool and linen. So, for example, if you wear cotton, you don't have to put on tzitzis. That's why some people are makpid to wear woolen tzitzis, because they don't want to rely. You want to be chayav minatir on tzitzis. There is a shtickle of chumrah to wear woolen tzitzis if you can. So the Brisa says as shiroim, which is silk, koloch, which is our Mishnah, svikin. Svikin is made out of soft, which is made out of soft. What's the word for it? Soft silk. It's made out of even softer silk than the gushkura. So what happens is all these three things chayovim b'tzitzis. Tiyufta dovin tiyufta is a kasha on Rovin, because Rovin told us that the good quality silk which this person was wearing was the same as the koloch of our Mishnah, and we see clearly from here that that's not true, because we see that we see over here that it's named as three different things. Shiroim, koloch, and tzvik. They mentioned as three different things. Shiur lechut v'shiur parano lechut. That within the good quality silk there are two different kinds. The shiur parano, which is what Rovin held was koloch, which is what the brother of the Eshkelusa was wearing, and the shiroin, which is the normal silk. Again, the Mishnah says koloch. What is koloch? The Gemara says it's an inferior silk. Rovin came along and said that the good quality silk is also called koloch. The Gemara says, we see from this Brisa not like that. The Gemara says maybe not. Maybe there are still two different kinds of silk, and you can't learn from this Brisa otherwise. And the Brisa is just telling us shiroim is one kind of silk, meaning that is sorry, shiroim and koloch are two kinds of silk. Koloch is the very good quality, the shiur parano, and shiroim is a different kind. So shiur lechud, that's one kind of shiur parano lechud, and shiur parano is another kind. It's just two different kinds of silk. Says the Gemara, that is, we had it actually before. It's a rubber tree where between the bark and the trunk, there's a woolly substance you can make wicks from. They're walking the valley of Tamurisa. They saw these trees, which we're talking, which is arbosa, these kinds of arbosa trees, arbosa. So what happened was, I didn't understand. That's the idon of our Mishnah. He said, that's wood. How can you make a wick out of wood? Kolaf, he peeled the branch, the bark, but then he showed him amunisa, the woolly substance, the beni, which is in between. So there is a woolly substance in between, and that's what Mishnah is referring to. I saw something translated as nettle. It's basically a grass that grows in the desert, and it is and you can twist it into a wick. It's a grass that grows in the desert. You can twist it into a wick. If it's the algae, the dark algae which grows on trenches, it crumbles. You can't make a wick out of it. It's the dark substance that grows on ships. If you've got a ship which is in the water for a long time, below water level, there's things growing on the walls of the ship. I think nowadays the common word for it is seaweed or algae, things like that which grow. Here it's got a picture of it over here. You see the picture ship, and it's got like things growing. If you see all boats which are in the water, especially if they're stagnant in the water. Look at Rashi. If you ever see stagnant water, you see green things growing on it. So that's going on the boat, and here's the first wide lines. There's green things growing on the outside. It's seaweed. The Brisa added on them. You're not allowed to use wool or hair. And if a person is short of a wick on the Erev Shabbos, and he decides what he's going to do is take a hair from his head and use that as a wick or wool, then it doesn't work. Why does the Mishnah not mention them? And it's not said michvats. Michvats kovitz. It's what's the word for it? It shrinks. It. What's the ask saying? There's good words for michvats kovitz.
Curls.
Curls. It curls. Sa echruche michvach. Hair burns. Meaning the Mishnah held that there's no need to tell you that you can't to use a wick of hair or wool, because it just curls and it just burns. And it doesn't just burn, it becomes, it shrinks. And since it shrinks, so therefore it's not really counted. Well, the article translated as curls, it's not really curling. Michvas Kovitz Rashi explains it as I don't know. Actually, it seems that it shrinks. I once heard one of the ways to check for. What do you say?
Shrivels.
Can't hear. Shrivels. Yeah, shrivels. Those who check for shatness, what do? If they want to know if something's wool, they take a firelighter and they light it a tiny bit, and they see how it burns. Wool doesn't catch fire. What it does is it just shrinks and shrivels and curls, and therefore it is not. You can't use it as a wick. Zephes zifsa is pitch. Shavo kerusa is wax. Tana. The Vice says adkan psul psilus. Till here was only, that means till the zephes is all the wicks which are no good. Psul shmonim is all the oils which are no good. Obviously, if you look through the Mishnah, the list starts off with wicks and then carries on with oils. Obviously, we're talking about the first half is wicks, second half is oils. Shav itztuchele. You can't use it as a wick. Rashi explains that nowadays you take a candle. What's a candle? It's a wick which is wrapped around in wax, and you light it. So you might have thought that you can't use wax as a candle. You can't use a wax candle. Yes, you can. You can't use wax like this. How can't you use wax? If you got a wick and you put wax instead of oil inside the wick, that's no good. But if you make it as a wick, that's okay. If we go back to the Mishnah, I'd like to read the Mishnah very, what's the word for it? Very quickly. Lechesh is from a cedar basket, it's called. It's the wool around the cedar tree. Chosa is uncombed flax. Choloch is inferior silk. Psilas idon is from a willow tree. Psilas midbar is nettles and grass that grows in the desert. Yehuda Steinberg is basically seaweed. Zephyrus is pitch. Shava is wax. Shemin Kik will come to. I just want to translate it in the Mishnah because each one needs explanation. Okay. Itron, which is a kind of liquid, psul to the zifsa, is the residue of pitch. That means what you do is, when you heat up pitch very, very hot, out of it oozes out a kind of oil. That oil is called itron. Look at the bottom. That's itron. Itron is an oil that's a subsidiary from zephyrs. Shava, what's wax? Sulta the duvsha is the residue from honey. Says the Gemara, what difference does it make for all these things? Top of Chafal from Medalef. The for buying and selling. That means, if I promise you I'm going to sell you wax, and then I just give you honeycombs, you cannot complain and say, wait a second, I want you to do something about it. You just give me honeycombs, I wanted wax. Because since all wax is a residue of honeycombs, therefore when I promised you wax, if I give you honeycombs, that is good enough. That's how Rashi and Tosfos both explain. It's, by the way, if you're interested, the bottom of Tosfos or Chofam with base, Ad Kam, he brings that there were some people that would refuse to light the Shabbos candles with wax candles. If you look at Tesis, the bottom Shabbos Shalom. And the reason is because our Mishnah says that one of the things you're not allowed to use is shav or shav is wax. And Tesis, like Rashi, says that they're making a big mistake. Because when the Mishnah says you can't use wax, is you can't use wax as an oil. You can use wax as a candle. And if you've got a bowl of oil and you add wax to it and then you put a wick in it, that's no good because the wax will not float easily up to the wick. But if you make a candle out of wax, that's okay. This Gemara is not easy in translation. The main halacha is you have to use something which doesn't need a lot of looking after. Says the Gemara, top line from Dalef. You're not allowed to light them for Shabbos. You can make a bonfire. You're not allowed to make a wick for a candle, but you're allowed to. For a lamp, you can't make a lamp candle out to the wick because that is something which a person needs to adjust. But these things, if you make a big bonfire, they'll light. And certain things, to make a good wick, you require a good oil, a good wick. But when you're making a bonfire and you throw into things which don't burn so well, because it's a big bonfire, they all burn well. So the Mishnah was only talking about making candles out of these things. They're near, as a lamp, as a candle. But as a bonfire, it's all permitted. I also the people that go down to the sea. There's a bird in the towns of the sea. It means either past the sea or on the side of the sea. The kik shumah, and it's called a kik. This bird, which is called a kik, that bird, you can take the oil out of it, and the oil, the fat, the oils out of that bird, you put in the candle and it burns very badly, and therefore you can't use it as the Shabbos candle. The kik shmur is called kik. It's cotton seed oil. That means you take cotton, the seeds of cotton wool. Look in Rashi. Remember, I like to mention when Rashi uses a French word which is English. It's the last of the wide land. Mishchat dekaza, shemen shoisim gamine from the Greek, the seeds. Semer geffen of cotton wool, cotton. Shekovid, cotton. Rashi says the word cotton, which is nowadays is the word we use also. So cotton seed oil, literally cotton. Look at gamine, semer geffen and cotton. Everyone's very busy. You're allowed to use cotton seed oil on Pesach and all the rest. So here the Gemara says you can't use it for your Shabbos candles. It doesn't burn so well. We're talking about the plant which Yona used. If you remember the story of Yona, he was very, very hot, and Hashem planted the kikoin, and that tree is forbidden to use the oil of that plant for your Shabbos candles. I saw it. It looks a bit like the plant which is called sluliva. Since we do not know what sluliva is, therefore it doesn't really help us all that much. With the fashki, Robbie, it grows by the ponds and by the marshes. And they would hang it by the entrance by the mouths of the opening of the shops, because it's a very nice shade and it's a nice smell. If you remember, Yonah really appreciated the plant after it was told that Nineveh won't be destroyed. From its kernels, grain, and from its seeds, of the mishcha you make oil. And under its branches, Neichen rest all the people are not well in Eretz Yisrael. All the people not well in Eretz Yisrael rest underneath its branches because it's such a beautiful plant. It seems like it was a wonderful plant which produced oil, produced a good smell, it produced good shade. But the Maisa, the oil wasn't a good one, and therefore we do not use it for the Shabbos candles. We're just trying to establish when the Mishnah says a list of things, which things they are. The light flickers in them. That means what happens is it flickers on and off. They don't get drawn after the wick. They don't follow the wick. They have independent. They don't get drawn well into the wicks. Therefore, no good. That means the wicks are no good because the flame flickers around them, and the oils are no good because they don't follow achapsila. They don't get drawn into the wick. What What happens if you've got mostly olive oil and you want to add a little bit of the other kinds of oil, which Mishnah says are no good? Can you add a little bit of those oils in? So Abai asked that to Rav. So he said, like, because you might come to light it by itself or not. He said to him, not allowed to. My time, why not? He said to him, because since you're not allowed to light them on their own, if we allow you to light it as a mixture, you may come to light it on its own as well. And therefore, we don't want it a gzeira that if you light it, since Chazal didn't allow you to light on its own, we don't allow you to light as a mixture because you might come to light on its own. If you wrap around something which you're not allowed to, which you can light, on something which you're not allowed to light, not allowed to light. Gamliel says, actually should say, Shabbat Ab, my father's house, or you koichin pesila, would wrap a wick, agabe egos on a nut, umadlikin it would light. Katanim yes like likin. You see, Gamliel did light a candle, even though it was wrapped around a nut, and a nut is not a kosher for a wick. So the Gemara says, since you asked me a kash, instead of asking me a kash for Gamliel, say bring me a proof of the Tanakama. Tanakama says it's forbidden. Gamliel says we used to do it. Why did you ask me a kash from Gamliel? Rather, you should ask me a kash. You should prove that I'm right for the Tanakama. A story is always greater. This is the expression Maisa Rav. Some people think the expression Maisa Rav means the story of a Rav. That's not the right translation. Maisa Rav means a story is great. Whenever you have a story, it is greater than a halacha. Rashi explains this in a couple of places. That sometimes an halacha, when it's paskan, you don't know if it's negel lemaisa. For example, could be there's other reasons to be more machmir, to take on other shittas. But when you see a story taking place and the Rav following in a certain direction, you can be sure that the halacha is like that. So since Gamliel did this, therefore it should be mutter. So the Gemara says, "Mikomokim kasha." So my love lahadlik, and we're not talking about lighting. They didn't use the nut as a part of the wick to light. Rather, they used the nut to make the wick float. Nowadays, there are what's called floating wicks, where you put a tiny wick inside like a circle or something, a disc, which makes it float. Nowadays, never had that. So what did they used to do? They used to take a nut. A nut flows in oil. They would wrap the wick around the nut, and then they would light the wick. And in that way, there won't be a problem of the wick falling in. So that's not comparable to the story of Rava. Rava was talking about mixing the oil, of which is mutter and asa together. He's not doing that at all. So what's the reason the Tanakama that forbids it? And it's no kulu abshim gamliel he b'chsum mechsav achitani. Koach dovash madiki boy agav dovash ein madlikin boy not allowed to. Amed v'amoim lahadik aval lahak boy is to float mutter shavum shum gamliel oimer shveisabo yikoichin pesila gabi egois. They would wrap a wick around the nut and they would light it because it was only there for floating. Fat which has been dissolved. The kiv mahutach is that word dissolved. It's been dissolved. It's dissolved.
Melted.
Right. What? Anybody's got an English
melted.
Word?
Melted.
Melted. Oh, melted maybe better. Okay. The kaveh dogim sheni moichu, and the insides of a fish which have been then maybe be dissolved. That's melted. Well, anybody got a better word than dissolved? I don't know. Melted.
No, that means dissolved. The second one is dissolved. First one's melted.
It's the same thing basically. You take the fat and you heat it up until it gets that's melted and dissolve the insides of a fish. You add a bit of oil or madlik. So now let's do a bit of background. The halacha is you're not allowed to use fat which is not melted, and you're not allowed to use the insides of fish to light your Shabbos candles. Why not? Because the oil, the fats, they do not burn well, and you'll end up with a candle which is going out. Says the Gemara that if you dissolve it, it's still awesome. Why? When it's dissolved, it should be okay. The Gemara will explain later, because if we allow you when it's dissolved, then you may come to use it when it's not dissolved. So they forbid it in all cases. But nevertheless, it says clearly that you're allowed to add a little bit of oil and light the whole thing. which is a raya against Rava, who said that when you've got a mixture of good oil and bad oil, you're not allowed to light it. So Moshe says, no, you can't compare. Hani mimshchi beinayu. They get drawn on themselves. But hani lo mimshchi beinayu. But these don't. And there were geyser on fat which has been dissolved, melted. The fish inside that got dissolved, the fish that didn't get dissolved. So therefore, the ligze nami chilef more ligze nami chilef motor give a dog shni moichu shnosen sich on shemen they got it oil mish chilef motor give a dog shni moichu shlo nosen sich on shemen. You should be forbidden to put in a bit of oil into the fat which is being melted because of the other fat which hasn't been, because of the fat which hasn't been melted at all. So the Gemara says again. The Gemara says like this: you added a little bit of oil that you never put inside its oil. It should be also. As well, he go for exer, not make him exer. Should we do exer to exer? Meaning like this: when you've got good oil and bad oil, we forbid it. Why do we forbid it? Because if we allow you to do it like that, you may come to use only bad oil, and then you'll have a very weak candle, and you'll come to tilt it on Shabbos. Here, we're not talking about bad oil. We're talking about fat which has been dissolved. A fat which has been dissolved and melted is actually very good oil. The only reason we don't allow you to use it is because you may come to use other fat which hasn't been melted. Therefore, since it is already one stage removed, therefore, if you add a bit of good oil to that, we permit it. That means normal oil, which is actually bad oil, even if you add a little bit of good oil, we forbid it. But this fat which has been melted, which is actually in its own right, is good oil, but it's only forbidden because you may not melt the fat next time. For that, if you add a little bit of good oil, we permit it, because that itself is only a gezer, meaning that itself is be'etzem mutter, because it's melted fat. Melted fat does burn well. It's only because you're gezer to it because of a non-melted fat. So when you add a bit of good oil, proper oil, therefore it's permitted. Tony Romi Ba'achomo. Silus v'shvonim shomim chachamim ein madikim ben b'Shabbos, ein madikim ben b'mikdash. You're not allowed to light them in the Beis Mikdash either. The Shum Shenema lahalos ne'er tamid. We mentioned this before. The pasuk could have said lahadlik ne'er tamid. Right? It says lahalos ne'er tamid. So the more explains who Tony Lo, he tilted it. He said it. V'omalon, he explained it. That the wick should be able to go up on its own. And not that you should require help, that the wick, the flame should go up. When you light the lahalos ne'er tamid means the flame has to go up, a flame which has to get better. If you use a wick which constantly needs propping up and constantly needs the oil to be adjusted, that's not lahalos ne'er tamid. And therefore you can't use anything which is now mishum, which is no good. You couldn't use it either in the Beis Hamikdash. Says the Gemara, Tanam, we learned from the worn out clothes of the trousers of the Kohanim, umehem neman, from the belts, or you mafkin, they would tear out wicks. Umehem madiket, and they would light. We see they would use the belts of the Kohanim to light the wicks in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, what were the belts of the Kohanim made out of? No Kohanim, lots of Kohanim. What were the belts of the Kohanim made out of?
Linen.
What?
Linen.
Not just linen. If it would be just linen, it'd be okay, because linen is actually one of the ingredients you can use for lighting Shabbos candles. One of the ingredients is wool. And wool, we said before, you're not allowed to use for Shabbos candles. And nevertheless, they used to use wool for the candles. So how can that be? And says the Gemara, Simchas Beis HaSheva Shani. Simchas Beis HaSheva was different. So therefore, since Simchas Beis HaSheva was only not the Raisa, and it wasn't as chomo as lighting a Chanukah menorah, so therefore they allowed it. And also, it doesn't say the word lahalos for Simchas HaSheva. Toshman Tani Rabba B'Masna Big Day Kona Shabalu, which got worn out. Mafkin Ois on Menois and Psilis Tamikdash. They would tear them out and make wicks. My love the kilayim. Or we're not talking about kilayim, for example, the belt. Loy the boots, only of the linen. For example, the shirt, like you said before, the shirt was only made out of linen. So the shirt, the trousers were only made out of linen. So therefore, those you could indeed make wicks, because linen you can make wicks. But from the belt, which had wool inside, you are not allowed to. Now we're going to have a long sugya about Hanukkah. Quite interesting, a very lot of halachas about Hanukkah. Omar, this is the only sugya, this is the main sugya of Shas of Hanukkah. It's interesting, there is no Masechta on Hanukkah. One reason is because there wasn't a lot of halachas for Hanukkah, so Rabbi Yehuda Nasi didn't make a Masechta on Hanukkah because there's not many halachas. There's another reason brought down by the Rishonim, a very interesting reason. Anybody know why there's no Maseches Hanukkah?
The Chashmonaim became kings.
Okay, yeah.
Because the Chashmonaim took over the Malchus, and Rebbe was jealous.
Rebbe was annoyed. Yehuda Nasi was annoyed with them. Yehuda Nasi came from Shevet Yehuda, and the Chashmonaim came from Shevet Levi, and they took the Malchus, which belongs to Shevet Yehuda. So he wasn't very happy with them. So he never made the Maseches Hanukkah. Okay.
Also, he let his personal feelings stop him making a Masechta.
He felt they didn't deserve it. Omar Avona. Psilo is the wicks, v'shmonim an oil, sh'omu chachamim, im malik ben b'Shabbos, im malik ben b'Chanukah, ben b'Shabbos, ben b'Chol. We have to take a situation like this. Why are you not allowed to use the candles on Shabbos? Because you may come to tilt it on Shabbos, we said. So what about Chanukah? Chanukah, what would you say? Would you be allowed to light it on Chanukah? If that's the only reason, the Chanukah would be okay. Why? Because there's no issa on a weekday to tilt a candle. Except Chanukah, which is on the Shabbos, would be awesome. But Chanukah, which is a weekday, what do I care to light the candle from a very weak candle? Unless it goes out, I'll tilt it. Who cares? The Gemara now is going to bring 3 different shittas regarding the halachas of whether we're allowed to use the candles of Shabbos or allowed to use it on Chanukah or not. And each one has slightly different shittas to try to work them all out together. So the Gemara first says you're not allowed to bein b'Chanukah, bein b'Shabbos, bein b'Chol. Why not? If the candle goes out, you're obliged to light it. And since you're obliged to light it, we're scared that you won't bother. Therefore, if you use a very poor quality wick, it's very likely to go out. And since it's very likely to go out, you may not bother relighting it. You won't do a proper job. Therefore, we forbid you originally to use a bad quality. Or you're allowed to use the candle. Since you're allowed to use the candle, when it comes to Friday night, you may come to tilt the Chanukah candle and therefore use it on Shabbos and be over Yisrael. Let's just do a few more lines. You're allowed to light on weekday. Shabbos, because he holds top of Chafala from the base. If the candle or Chanukah candles goes out, ain't Zokuklo, if it goes out, ain't Zokuklo. But also you're not allowed to use it. We have 3 different shittas, and it depends on 2 fundamental shaylas. One shayla, are you allowed to use the candle on Chanukah? That means it's a machlokas amoyvoim. Are you allowed to use the Chanukah candles? If you're not allowed to use the Chanukah candles, then you're not going to come and tilt the Chanukah candle. Why won't you come to tilt it? The only reason you come to tilt the candle is when you see it's about to go out and you're trying to read, then you might come to tilt it. But if you're not allowed to use the Chanukah candles anyway, you won't come to tilt it. But if you are allowed to use it, then you won't come to tilt it. What?
You can use the Shabbos. The Shabbos, though.
The Shabbos is only a later thing, according to the Mandoma, that you're not allowed to use it. But if you're allowed to use it, you may come to tilt the Chanukah candle itself. If you're not allowed to use it, it doesn't matter. Obviously, for the Shabbos, you would have to be more machmir, right? So one shaila is, are you allowed to use the Chanukah candles or not? Another shaila is, kofso zokuklo or kofso ein zokuklo. If the Chanukah candles go out, do you have to relight it or do you not have to relight it? If you hold that you don't have to relight it, so we don't mind you using a poor quality candle. Why? Because since the whole mitzvah is just to light it, if it goes out, we don't care. Therefore, use a bad quality. So if it goes out, fine. But if you hold that you mechuv to relight it, we're scared that if you use a bad quality wick and it keeps going out, you'll eventually give up and you won't bother relighting it. You won't do the mitzvah. So regarding these 2 questions, hangs the other question: which are you allowed to use these candles and wicks, these wicks and oils, which we said in our mission, not allowed to use for Shabbos, or you're allowed to use them for Hanukkah? One man says you're not allowed to use it for Hanukkah, not for weekday, not for Shabbos. In Shabbos, you're not allowed to, since you're allowed to use the Hanukkah candles, you'll come to tilt it on Shabbos, if you're not allowed to use it on Shabbos. On weekday, you're not allowed to, because he holds Kovsa's Zokuklo, you have to relight it, and you won't bother to relight it on the weekdays, therefore we don't allow you to use it. The other man says you're allowed to use it on weekday, but not on Shabbos. He holds Kovsa ein Zokuklo, you don't have to relight it. Since you don't have to relight it on the weekday, we don't care, we just say to you, light whichever one you want to, makes no difference. But on Shabbos, since you're allowed to get pleasure from it, we don't want you to use those candles, weak candles, because then you'll come to tilt it. We paskin kovsa ein zokuklo. You don't have to relight it. And furthermore, we paskin that you're not allowed to use the candles. So therefore, when it comes to Shabbos, Chanukah which falls on Shabbos, we don't care about you using these bad wicks. Why not? Because you're not going to tilt it, because you're anyway not allowed to use it. You're not going to tilt a candle when you're not allowed to use it anyway. And on weekday, we also allow you to use them because we pass in kovsa ein zokuklo. If it goes out, you're not mechuyev to relight it. So that's the shit, and that's how we pass, that you're allowed to use your Chanukah candles from the week, and even these oils and wicks which are no good for Shabbos, you are allowed to, but the Eved, obviously not a Chatchilik, he's not going to have a nice candle, you're allowed to use it on Chanukah. There's a Bnei Yisoscha, which I get a lot of chizuk from. I once spoke on Chanukah, I mentioned it, people don't like it as much, no, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Bnei Yisoscha says, it's a very fascinating halacha that kovsa ein zokuklo. It's a very strange halacha if you think about it. That I light a Chanukah candle, goes out 10 seconds later, what's the halacha? Finished. I'm yotzei my mitzvah. Wait a second. We asked you to light a candle. It went out. Just now, it says of the Yisoscha, because the ikar of Chanukah was lighting is the light of Ruchnius. Hashem wants to teach us that when it comes to Ruchnius, He doesn't take into consideration how much success you have. It's how much effort. You can light a candle and it lasts for days. You can light a candle and it lasts for seconds. Hashem makes no difference. Hashem wants to see that you made the effort to light the candle. Once you've lit the candle, you've done your job. And therefore, that's how we pass in kovsa ein zokuklo. You lit it, you did your job. After that, so that's what the Gemara says. That's the three shittas we had in the three logics. So the Gemara says, the Chum said this in front of Abaya. In the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah. Abaya did not respect Rabbi Yirmiyah for some reason enough, and when he heard it in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, he refused to accept it. Because the Robin came from Eretz Yisrael. Robin said this over, they said it over in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah. And then he accepted it. Omar is a koif out of bin zoicha. Gemilta v'shmaitze mi'ikoa out of been learned this halacha earlier, much previously. With Gomor, he learned it. And then he learned these halachas. Only he didn't accept it from Rabbi Yirmiyah, he accepted it from Robin. What difference does it make that he accepted it later in his life? Had he learned it when he was younger, he would have remembered it better and known it better. But because of the fact that he refused to accept it previously, because he didn't respect Rabbi Yirmiyah enough, that's why he was upset with himself. That instead of relying on the shit of Rabbi Yirmiyah, he didn't believe him, and he only accepted it at a later stage, and that's why he was upset, he was frustrated with himself. Furthermore, because in Zoklo, you don't have to relight it to a minu mitzvah, the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles from Shkia until the market, the lives left in the marketplace. My love, the kovsa, if it goes out, automatically you have to keep lighting it until there's nobody left in the marketplace. Look, it's not telling you how long the candles have to be lit. It's telling you what's the time of lighting from Shkia to the last time of night, to when there's nobody left in the marketplace. Alternatively, it's for the shiur. How long of oil you're supposed to put in. That means the shiur of Mishatishka Achamo add Shetich L'Regel Nashuk is not that you have to keep lighting it and keep lighting it, that the candle should be burning from Shkia till that time. Rather, what it means is like this: you have to light it at Shkia. If you didn't manage to light it at Shkia, you've got all the way till that Shetich L'Regel Nashuk to is your time limit, your time span of lighting it. Alternatively, how much oil do you have to put in is that you should light all the way from Shkia till the end of the night, till the Shetich L'Regel Nashuk. Till when? When is that? That's come until when? How much? There was a group of people called Talmudoi. They had a profession. Their profession was that they would sell small pieces of wood. And what would happen is people would go home at night and they would make themselves a fire, right? A fire. And then some people would suddenly notice, hey, I've run out of wood, kindling wood. So they would go out to the marketplace and buy. So these people would be the last ones to linger in the marketplace. Most people, when they see people going home, they close up shop and they go home. But these Talmudoi didn't close up shop when they saw other people going home. Why not? Because they waited until the people who had gone home start building the fires, and then they would come home. Then they would come back and realize they're running out of wood and come back to the marketplace to buy the kindling wood. So they would only go home at the very when they realized there's nobody else going to come out of the houses. That means they were the very last people to linger in the market. If it's not clear, if it's not clear, you should stop me at any stage. So therefore, the Gemara says, so that is how long. And Meiri already writes that every time and every place has its own tichla regel and ashuk. So, for example, nowadays we've got people out much later than dark, right? People are out all hours of the night. So therefore,
Not anymore.
tichla regel and ashuk is later. What? Not anymore. Yeah, if the virus hasn't gone by Hanukkah, then will it be tichla regel and ashuk would be. Talking about the mitzvahs Hanukkah issue basic, one candle per family. I mean, it's issue basic. A man and his whole family only need one candle. One for every person. First day 8, you go down. We said, one, he light more and more. You count how many days are left still to come, and that's how many candles you light. Time to be saying, look, for the amount of days that are gone already. Like the poem, the cows they bought on Sukkot Musaf, that the first day they bought 13, the next day 12, 11, went down. Time to be saying, the man in the Kodesh, when we read them, whenever it comes to Kodesh, you go up, you don't go down. So there's two different mahalchim, what's the machlokes of Shammai B'Silam. Do you go up and do you go down because how many days are left? Or up because how many days you already had? Or do you go down because like the poem, the cows of Sukkot? Or do you go down? Do you go down like the cows of Sukkot? Or do you go up because Malim B'Kodesh Ve'im Reading?
The cows apply to those thing of Malim B'Kodesh Ve'im Reading.
Oh, that's Mefurish Posuk that you go down. Normally Malim B'Kodesh Ve'im Reading. But there we see that the Torah specifically, there's a very lot of drush in all these things. I'm sure every day of Hanukkah you've got another Dvar Torah on all these different Gemaras. These are quite famous Gemaras. Like the cows of Sukkot. You go up and we don't go down. Since we go up, therefore, since we go up and we don't go down, and that's why we count light more every day. By the entrance of his house in Bachutz. If he lived upstairs, you put it by the window which is close to the Shusur Abim. When it's a time of danger, when the Goyim don't allow you to light candles, you leave it by the table, you light it on the table, you put it on the table, and that's enough. You have to have another candle for the light. If it's a bonfire in the room, you don't need. If it's an important person, even if it's a bonfire, important people don't rely on bonfires. They only read by candlelight. So therefore, even if there's a bonfire in the room, you still need to have another candle to use. Rashi, by the way, says the sakana was that there was a group of people, the Persians, that when it came to their day of Avodah Zarah, you were only allowed to light candles in their Avodah Zarah house. I got one small point, tiny bit more complicated like this. Rashi, if you look at Rashi, before you look at Rashi, if I was to ask you, what is the purpose of the shamash? For what would you say? The simplest words. What's the purpose of the shamash?
You shouldn't benefit from the lights.
Right, you shouldn't benefit from the Hanukkah candles. That's how I would have written. Now, I noticed that Rashi uses a slightly different wording. I was very worried about it, and I found the Bi'alocha asks it as a kasha, and he knows a whole new halacha from it. If you look at Rashi, Nera Cheres, look at Rashi, Lasso is Hekel Dovo, that it should be recognizable. And if you look at Rashi afterwards, you want people to know that it's a Ner Shel Mitzvah. Why does Rashi have to say you want people to know it's a Ner Shel Mitzvah? Because Chaim says a shaila like this. What happens if you're not planning to use anything in that room? You're not planning to use not your Hanukkah candles, not your shamash. You're not planning to be in the room, let's say. Is there any need to have a shamash? What would you say? If you say
according to Rashi's reason,
oh, very good. If you say like I would have said before, like you wanted to say before we saw Rashi, the reason why you have a shamash is because you don't want to use the Hanukkah candles. Then if you're not going to use the Hanukkah candles, so you don't need a shamash, right? If you're not going to be in the room, what's the purpose of having a shamash? I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to use the Hanukkah candles. But Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says you need it to be recognizing, meaning that you want to show that this is for Hanukkah, not for other reasons. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if that's the case, therefore, and let me just read it to you inside. We'll stop here. Just I got so excited. I got a lot of pleasure when I saw this Mishnah Berurah because I was bothered. What's Rashi trying to do? Why does Rashi not just say? Why does Rashi not just say that? The question is finding the Mishnah Berurah. Where was it? Oh. Not as quick as I thought. Wait a second. The purpose of the Mishnah Berurah, sorry, the purpose is, it's in Tov Reish Ayin Aleph. It says, I read it out to you. Pirush Rashi Mishum HaKeira. V'rotze leima. Even if you have no intention of using any of the candles, says the Mishnah Berurah, but I'll tell you, that's only if you're lighting on your table, it's a shas sakon. But let's say you're lighting by your front door or other places by the window. Says the Mishnah Berurah, probably Rashi would agree that you don't need a shamash. Because the whole purpose of the shamash, when you're putting it on the table, so it looks very much like you lighting it for your own purposes, then you need another candle to show that you're doing it in the Shem Chanukah. And then even if you're not planning to use anything, you should still have an extra candle. But when you're not lighting on the table, then you don't need it. It's very interesting that the Bialoch is medayek from this Rashi, these few words of Rashi, a whole new halacha. The Rashi didn't say that the purpose is because you shouldn't use the Hanukkah candles. Rashi says because you need that as recognizing. And therefore, even if you don't use the candles at all, you still need to. Okay, we're up to my Hanukkah. Nice topic to start from. What is Hanukkah? On the Chaf Aleph on base. Mitzvah Shem Thursday, 8 o'clock we'll carry on. And on Friday and on Motzei Shabbos, there'll be 2 shorter shiurim. Even though we're a bit ahead, but as this
we need some credit.
Going anywhere very quickly, therefore we need to be ahead of it. Anyway, any questions? No questions? Everybody okay? Is everybody well?
Are you a bit better?
So everybody feeling cabin fever yet? Stuck at home?
Wish.
Right.
Some of us have work to do.
Okay. You go to work at
Yeah, can't work from home.
Can't work from home. I hear. How's it going? Is it? Do you have all kinds of restrictions? People coming in, coming out? Yeah, you have to.
In Whitefield more than in Middleton, but yeah, time we've to do less hours and trying to get through all massive orders. So,
are you seeing a shortage of products? Is there a shortage of stuff? No.
There's no shortage of anything.
There are enough eggs.
Shops, there's a shortage of everything.
There's eggs. Normally,
is there
every Pesach they go through this egg business. It's nothing to do with Corona. It's every Pesach. They import eggs normally, but it's never been that the supermarkets also haven't had eggs.
Why is there no eggs now?
No eggs?
Because it's imports. A lot of the eggs are imported.
So there is a shortage of eggs?
I'm saying every year there's a shortage of eggs. This year happens to be worse. If anyone plans to go to MH, don't. Going to be rammed and everyone's going to breathing all over each other.
MH is still open?
No, they're set in MH car park. Someone's coming with a whole load of eggs. Somebody said they're coming from London. £55 a case.
How big is the case?
The case is, if it's the regular size case, it's
what about
300 eggs? 300 eggs in a case, I think it is.
30 dozen, I think.
Depends on size. Yeah. Depends if it's trays or if not.
Wow,
Yeah.
people are trying to...
The reason the shops are empty is simply because people are taking the stuff off the shelf to fill up. They have the stock in the back. They
Tell
just
what she asking.
aren't able to put it out.
Okay.
But now you short of egg. You got enough eggs for the bakery, yeah?
Yeah. Most of my eggs I buy in liquid.
He's got his own chickens.
No, they come in big cartons.
Jesse, one sec.
Yeah, so if anyone hasn't got eggs for Yontef, you know who to blame.
Why?
No, you know where to
You've
go.
taken all our eggs.
No, if you bought the eggs that you need for this week, you bought them this week,
Wait,
and the eggs you need for
Jesse,
next week, and next week, everybody would have enough eggs.
Oh, no, you can't see.
You go to those
Everyone's,
kitchens, they've got-
everyone's buying for Yontef. Everyone needs eggs.
I don't remember
Yeah, but
last
you
year
don't-
being as
so
bad.
This week you don't need eggs for 3 weeks' time.
No.
But people are buying them now because they're
worried there'll be a shortage.
worried there'll be a
I'm
shortage.
turning off
so-
Kula Loshen. It doesn't really need to be on Kula Loshen, all of this.
Should we buy chickens? Should we buy chickens or not?
Oh, thank you.
Get our own eggs.
If you know how to shecht it, then yeah.
No, to lay eggs.
Yeah, but when it stops laying eggs, then you have to
You have
shecht
to
it.
chef it. Yeah.
Oh, you've got eggs. Wait a second, Shai, you've got chickens in your garden.
Shai's
Are they
got-
producing
Yeah.
eggs?
Yeah, but there's 2 eggs a day. It's not special, not really enough.
Barely
Small
survive.
eggs.
You use them
Chef,
every day? You use the 2 eggs every day?
We collect them like once a week, like quite a
And
few
you-
of them.
And you use them, you don't worry about germs and things, I don't know.
No,
blood
they're
spots.
clean and they're free range and they're very healthy.
Oh,
What
wow.
about blood spots?
Advertise it. You can get good money for them. Free range.
Yeah, 2 eggs a day, sell them at,
Tell
how did
them.
you say they were, £55
Shia,
a
what-
case?
Shia, do you get
Shia,
blood
what do you-
spots?
What?
Do you get blood spots in them?
No, because there's no meal, but for some reason we still have to
Yeah.
check them.
Shia, what food do you give them on Pesach?
Well, they eat
That's a meal.
everything, basically, all our leftovers and everything. But I don't see why chicken pellets are chametz anyways.
Well, Shia, if your chickens,
Oh, they are, you're right, they are.
if your chickens or your eggs go missing tonight, you know who it might be.
Why do you only have 2 chickens? You should get more chickens and then you would have oh, your father's in the background. Who's in the background?
Not working.
By the way, the chickens that you hear, not my chickens. The chickens that you hear,
Ah,
to be relieved. Naftali.
Who's?
To be relieved. It's not from me. You don't hear all
Yeah,
the
we
way.
were saying that you're the only one in Manchester doesn't need to worry about running out of eggs. You get 2 eggs a day.
No, if I care, I've got a problem about Neda and Yontiv.
Okay, so Cholamoid you get eggs.
What?
You get on Cholamoid, you save up 3 days worth, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. Cholamoid, you'll have 8 eggs.
Yeah, making a business out of it.
Yes, go to MH car park, it's they're selling eggs.
The thing you're actually buying more chickens because £8 10 pence a chicken.
How much is the pound? How much does chicken cost?
Chickens. £8 and 10 pence a chicken.
Where?
Well, wherever it is, a farm.
Bargain.
But at the moment, yes, you got eggs for Yom Tov, and then you got chicken for Seder night as well. Leave enough eggs.
Problem is, there's no meat on the bone. It's just feathers.
Why?
What?
Why? Why is there no meat on the bones?
Because the hens. Chickens don't lay eggs. Hens lay eggs.
In short, they make chicken. They produce chickens for 3 things. Number 1 is for the feathers, colorful chickens. Poultry chicken is for the meat, and egg-laying chickens is for eggs. They play around the cells to do it accordingly. And these chickens are made to lay eggs every single day. And the chicken only lays about 150 eggs a year. These chickens lay about 280 eggs a year.
Square.
It's good. I find it hard to imagine what they do to these chickens to make them all these different things.
Like they do to flowers, they play around with the genetics and the...
It's scary to think what they can do. Imagine start doing that to human beings and things.
They're not allowed to, it's illegal. I think they did do it in China.
Oh, they manufacture
Everything in China.
chickens.
I wish
Daf Yomi followed by Sayed.
Sure.
They come with a made in China sticker.
Right, Rabbi Sofa shares on soon.
We should advertise Daf Yomi followed by science class.
Oh,
Rabbi Sofa, 9:15.
Aaron, where's Aaron? It looks like you're using your time well in absence of school.
I'm actually in the middle of making a school phone call, Rabbi Dakin.
You're very good.
Take a break, Aaron. Take a break.
Someone said you should be using Zoom though, not conference calling.
Speak to Menachem.
No, so we said, what do you mean? We don't, in a Jewish day, we don't have internet, so how can we use Zoom?
Okay, I'll let you all carry on. I wish I had stock with everything.
All right, we're going.
Chodesh. Moishe's on.
Moishi, he's going. He's going.
Moish, come on. See you,
He gave
Moish.
us quite. He gave us extra.
Party
It was very
pooper.
good.
Hello, sofa's on in a few minutes.
Yeah, on the sofa. Here we come.
Moshe, what are you so excited about? Huh?
Come on, kick us off.
Why have you muted? We haven't heard you all night.